Welcome back, people, to Bun and Cheese Reviews. This week is a new week, of course, and a new topic entirely. It's the end of February, I think this will come out. And this topic might last 4 weeks, might last 5 weeks. I haven't really planned it out yet, you know. But from the title, you've already known, this week is about cartoons. Now, if you're a kid, doesn't matter what age you were, if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there's a bit of a clue for you there. You was always watching cartoons. Obviously, those cartoons depended on what you liked, who you were, you know what I mean? Like some liked action cartoons, some liked comedy, mix of both. But we all watched cartoons. I hope we all watched cartoons anyway, because the ones that didn't, you missed out, you know what I'm saying? So this week is my top 5 Western cartoons in the 80s, particular, that came out in the 80s. One thing I will say is there is no Marvel or DC cartoons in this, and there won't be any for the rest of the month. As you know, I am saving all of that content till the end. But I also say there is usually no comic book related ones. There is in this week's, because I didn't watch a lot of cartoons from the 80s that weren't comic related, so I think there is 2 on this list. But I've spoke enough now. Let's get straight to the point and let's get straight in the list. Number 5, Banana Man. Okay, so I know I always say no shows based on comics in these reviews, but I'm cheating now, and here is why. Number 1, I don't think I have many original 80s cartoons that I sat through and thoroughly enjoyed. And number 2, I know when I do come to do a comic based list, this will not get a mention, and I don't think that will be fully fair. So, first of all, whoever made this character was either sipping some serious baby powder, or was actually just thinking, hey, do you know what would be really funny? Making somebody a superhero through a basic ass action. And if it was the latter, they were correct. So you probably already guessed it from the title, but all he has to do is eat a banana to gain superpowers. His powers clearly parody of the more well-known heroes in comics such as Superman and Shazam from DC, and even his dim-witted childlike personality mirrors the latter. The cartoon was just a short for 5 minutes, but it was definitely entertaining enough to be on this list. And face it, it will probably be the only British-made series throughout this whole month. Number 4, M.A.S.K, or M.A.S.K, whatever you want to call it. So M.A.S.K is a tricky one on this list because it was actually animated in Japan, which may make you think it should be on a top 5 Eastern list. But it was produced, developed, distributed and voice acted in the US, so I thought it's 4 for 1, let me put it in on here. I remember having M.A.S.K on a VHS tape when I was growing up. For those watching this that don't know what VHS is, boy, you missed out. Going to Blockbuster for these rentals felt like Christmas sometimes. Anyway, I remember it always took a backseat to my Power Rangers VHS, but one day I eventually got bored of watching that over and over, and I put this in, and I was pleasantly surprised. The premise of it was about a special task force operating vehicles that can transform to fight against evil organizations. Yeah, I know that sounds a lot like Transformers, and let's be real, it probably was a rip-off of Transformers, but growing up I was never a massive fan of that particular cartoon. So this was my go-to show for big-ass vehicles dealing damage to bad guys. I only ever watched a handful of episodes from the tape, because tapes couldn't hold that much from you, those of you that can remember. But it's still something I remember to this day, 20 years later. Number 3, Inspector Gadget. Again, this was another series from the 80s that I didn't take all that seriously when I first saw it on TV. A fool dude in a long-ass coat with loads of attachments and gadgets to use from. I just can hear my 7-year-old self now saying, man, this sucks. And then I can hear my 7.5-year-old self enjoying the show because I actually gave it a chance. The titular character began to grow on me after only a short amount of time. I liked his loyalty to his job of keeping people safe, and the fact he wasn't very smart set him apart from all the other cartoons I was watching at the time, which is most likely why I didn't initially warm to him. But that personality was something I did warm to, because there was actually a few times where it came out as funny. It was always interesting to see what new gadget he was going to put out in the new episodes. It could range from anything from extra bionic arms, binoculars to even rollerblades. I feel like if I was born 10 years earlier, thus not having the shows I remember now as a kid, this would be even higher on my list. Number 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I think it's fair to say it doesn't matter how old you are, you could be 50 plus or 8 years old, the chances are you all know what the Ninja Turtles are. They've been around for as long as I can remember and have been successful in all types of media since the 80s cartoon till now, appearing in multiple live action movies, crossover comics and other cartoons. The only question is if you liked them or not, and I definitely did. Whenever I went out of my way as a kid to learn all the names of the main cast, it is evident it's something I'm starting to like and something that's starting to become one of my favourite shows. I loved how each turtle had their own personality, with Leonardo being my favourite for his tactical and smart qualities you need as a leader, but I also loved Donatello because of his knowledge in science and use of a bow staff. Looking back at it now, those are the same traits Tim Drake from the DC Universe has, which makes sense as he is one of my favourite members of the Bat family. Their wise sensei Master Splinter and their vigilante friend Casey Jones were also other characters in the show I thought were well put together and entertaining, with the latter being one of the few cartoon characters I idolised growing up, simply because I thought his attitude and hockey mask was cool. I suppose it's fitting that Stephen Amell, somebody I watched and admired for my whole adult life as the Arrow, portrayed him in the 2016 live action movie. Number 1, Thundercats. Okay, so the story of me and Thundercats has a sad ending, but I'll get to that later. I remember waking up at the early time on a Saturday morning in the mid-2000s to watch all my favourite cartoons that used to come on CBC. Some were currently airing and some were from way in the past. One day I came across Thundercats and I was a little intrigued, thinking this looks kind of cool. Cat-like humanoid creatures fighting with swords and weapons, and the lead character, Leono, was very, very likeable, being skillful and tactical but also childish, which is explained extremely well in the backstory of his body aging into adulthood but not his mind. After I first watched it, I continued to go out my way to wake up that early every week for about a month to carry on. And then something happened that I'm guessing happened to a lot of kids growing up in the 90s without no internet. I woke up to turn the TV on to find it was off the air with no explanation. Then, because it's your favourite show, you convince yourself that maybe it's just off for 1 week, so you come back again the next week to find it's still not on, and it don't ever come back. I don't miss those days at all, but reminiscing about the show makes me want to find all the episodes somewhere and finish it properly. So that is my top 5 list of cartoons in the 80s in the West. And some of these bring back some serious memories. Obviously I was not born in the 80s, so I'm guessing if I was, there would be maybe a lot more shows on here, or it would be a harder time for me to pick them out. But these are the ones I enjoyed the most. And I will see you next week for cartoon based, of course, but I'd say something a little different, but here's another hint, something further in the future. See you then.